All right. Good morning. Happy Monday. How are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Annoyed. So we'll be annoyed together. Yeah.
Because it's Monday.
Oh, Jesus. Jesus.
Someone's got a case of the Mondays. You're never allowed to be annoyed on a Monday without hearing that.
It's just on purpose.
Yep.
A lot of shit happened over the weekend, so we'll give some commentary on some national things, and then we'll kind of get into more me just ranting about things. So.
Life?
No. My commentary on the things that control those bad things.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I'll do some lecturing on what we need to change if I were king. So I wouldn't mind being king. I think I could straighten this shit out pretty quick.
You think you'd be a good king?
Good is, it's kind of comes from your perspective. Some would say the best king, and some would be like, that's an asshole king right
So
there.
you were like, I don't support the no kings protest. I think we need a king.
We need a good king, a noble, smart, educated king
to save us from ourselves.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
so a noble tyrant. I will be that.
A noble tyrant.
If I have to, I will. All right, so we had a couple shootings that happened, one in Australia and one at Brown University, and a stabbing of Rob Reiner over the weekend. So we got a threefer. And again, if you watch the show regularly, I will say that we're doomed as a civilization, as a world. We're just freaking doomed.
You know what else I heard? I didn't read about it, but I saw a headline. Some woman in Savannah, Georgia, total stranger, went up to her and dumped some acid on her face.
Yeah.
What is wrong with people?
Do you want to decipher it? Do you want to dissect it and find out what is wrong with people?
What is wrong with us?
Okay. So my typical objection to this is, number one, I told you so. If you do all the shit that we're doing, this is what you freaking get.
Yeah.
But the reaction from, people is what concerns me the most, because that's why I know we're doomed, because we're not good thinkers. Right. And so we don't know how to make things work. And the people that are not good thinkers should not be in charge of things. That's just, I had a great argument with my wife, and she's a very emotional thinker and I'm a very logical thinker. So when it's important things, I'm always the decision maker and in charge. And we need things of the heart and emotions, which happens about 2% of the time. She's in the driver's seat.
You think 2%?
2% of the time.
2%.
When it matters.
Okay.
Hallmark moments, all her. When it matters, logic, reason, rationale, philosophy, that's all me. And we had one of those moments where she jumped in the driver's seat when she shouldn't have been in the freaking driver's seat. And it basically illustrated everything when, we got different brains in this country. There are people that are just differently brained. And for all of us to process the same information and have an output, that's the concerning part, because those people should be like, all right, this is not for me. It's above my pay grade.
Yeah,
I stay in my lane when I'm really smart at things. Let's let the logical people handle this. So the first thing, you get a shooting, and what do people say? Ban firearms.
Gun control.
Gun control, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a myopic view where, you're an ambush style waiting for something to happen so you can say the thing that makes you sound smart. But for the rest of us who are smart, we look at that and we're like, that's really dumb. Right?
Yeah.
Really dumb. So the founders of this country were geniuses. And we have really dumb people that at every step try to outmaneuver the geniuses. Okay? And I believe we've gone too far, and we've taken all of these great insights and this very limited form of government, and we jacked it up to the point where even if the founders came back today, right, they wouldn't be able to fix it. All they would do is look at us and say, you guys are stupid. You had it, right?
Yeah.
And you pissed it away. And I don't know. I just shake my head. The dumb people are in charge, and we're just doomed. I've given up.
Do you think the jump to crying for gun control is just out of, I don't know what to do, and that feels like the only thing we can control?
No, it's dumb people. So if you're an engineer, what they do is they take the beginning, the origin of a problem, right? And you engineer a solution to that problem by taking past history, wisdoms, mathematics that have already gone into solving problems, and then you basically waterfall it out and take it forward and say, here's the benefits, here's the downsides, here's the costs, here's the risk, and you take all of that into aggregate and say, here's the best bad decision or the best good decision that we can come up with. Myopic, dumb people, they have these emotional reactions to something. They haven't thought it through. They haven't done but 30 seconds of thought into it. And they just, first thing that pops in about, bim, and they say that thing. And the engineers are like, keep them away from making decisions.
You're like,
please.
Grown-ups are talking.
Yeah, grown-up, get over there. So the dumbness is what is most disappointing in our culture. We gave dumb people gavels, and it's just disappointing.
Do you, just out of curiosity, the discussion that you and your wife had were 2% of the time an emotional person, whatever. Does she agree with you, or does she still think? Well,
in the moment, no.
I wonder what her view on this is.
Yeah, it would be great because in the end, like, so you have like maybe 75% of the argument is just dumbness, right? It's just a vomiting of emotion that doesn't make any logical sense. And then when all of those chemicals, those brain chemicals come down and we start talking through it, then she's like, oh, okay. Got it.
Did that happen?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if today she's like, Joe is so wrong.
I don't even start making the logical argument until those chemicals come down because they get in the way of rational thought. And that's what happens. It's a good sort of like small scale example of what happens in a complete civilization.
Like I've always heard, don't ever make an important decision if you are tired, hungry, if it's late in the day, if in any way you've got some sort of high emotion, high cortisol level, fatigue, whatever.
Yeah, we know that about ourselves, but how many people do you think make these decisions high on those chemicals?
I'm amped. I'm pulling this
That's
lever
exactly right.
now.
You multiply that by millions of people, and that's what we're living in. And we still have a little fabric of the founder's intent that stops a lot of the really dumb things from going large scale. Like they might happen, dumbness happens in small groups, but now we're like imposing stupidity on everybody. And that's where I get uncomfortable. I will go to an island and make my own country at a certain point when it gets too dumb to regulate.
Yeah. When my kids started to get involved in sports and stuff, some of the coaches would be like, if you have a problem or you have an issue and you want to discuss it with us, that's fine. In 24 hours, not when it happens, not when you're
that's brilliant.
Like stewing about
what
like
that
it
is?
was 24 hours and then you reach
That's
out.
an acknowledgement of human nature. That's knowing what human beings do.
Yeah.
Compartmentalizing and categorizing those people, taking their advantages. If they've got a skill, use a skill. And if they're terrible at something, keep it mitigated so it doesn't affect other people.
Yeah.
That's the premise of human nature.
And I know I'm an emotional person a little bit sometimes on occasion.
I'm not putting exclamation points
every
on that.
so often I can get a tad emotional. And so knowing this, I have had instances where like, if I needed to bring something serious to someone, I'll wait and tell them, I've waited 2 days to bring this up because I need you to know I'm serious about this. This is not me raging. This is not me not thinking.
We have I pick on YSU because they're my example of where you have social sciences that actually collect people's tuitions and they have trained professors who are supposed to study this. There's two parts, social and science. But what we did with the science, we basically threw it in the ground and lit it on fire. And now it's just social, like activism. That's all we're studying is we're taking a study of human beings and what they do and what their cultures are, taking sciences of what is empirical, can be measured, and can be applied to solve problems. But instead, right, they all dye their hair blue, they start weaving baskets, and they do interpretive dance. And it does nothing for anyone.
How about a situation like this?
Yes.
I have found that sometimes if I want to act on something and it's not like spur of the moment, it's not an emotional response. It's something I feel very deeply every single day, all day. I know how I feel. I know what I want to do, but I won't act on it. And then I'll get in an emotional state. Something will happen. I'll be really mad or whatever. And I'll say to myself, now you can act. Now you have the gall to do it. Go do it. And I know I'm doing it out of an emotional response, but I want to do it even when I'm not emotional. How do you feel about that? Is using that little push to actually go and do the thing you need to do or address the thing you need to address while you're raging?
The social sciences would say, why biologically can we get an emotional response that makes us do something that doesn't make logical sense, right? Where's the utility in that? So if I was like, okay, You're going to run on a battlefield and there's a guy swinging an axe in front of you, right?
Yeah.
I want you to be filled with an emotion that's going to be able to conquer your fear of being killed and go fight that dude. That's the utility of why our brain in survival. Now, if you use that discipline, right, and that skill set, when there's no utility in it, then it's a destructive behavior. And sciences would say when you do a blood test, find out what's in your blood and say, when is a good decision time? When this is low, when this is high, when I'm in that state, and then take the risk reward of doing that thing. And that's what engineers do is they waterfall the decision forward, let you contemplate all the costs, all the consequences, and see if you're still, like if I was like, okay, you're going to go to battle, you're going to run out on that field, you're going to have your axe, right? They're going to have this. If they swing at you and they hit you and they cut off your arm, are you still willing to do this thing? And after you've talked through it, you're like, I don't want to do that thing anymore because logically it's a bad bet.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I'm not a very confrontational person. I don't like confrontation. It's awkward for me. I don't like to be in awkward, uncomfortable situations where something needs addressed. But then there will come a day where I'm feeling like now I'm in a mood.
Yeah,
now I hope you bring confrontation.
That's just a tantrum.
And that's when I'm going to act on it.
And that we are our 12-year-old selves, and we want a tantrum, but we want to do it under the guise of sophistication. So we create tantrums in areas so we can, claim that was a pinky wine sip version of it, but it's just a tantrum.
How is it different though? So we've talked before where, you get in different modes where you're very logical and you're working on things that take that mindset, or you can be very creative and you're going to start to create in that mindset. So what's the difference with me saying something needs addressed and I'm just not in the mindset to do it?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? Feisty today. Let's do this.
Right.
I'm in the mindset to do it. Isn't that kind of the same thing?
Well, if there's utility in it, that's the difference. If there's utility in it, if it's emotional response, when I talk through what those things actually mean, and you wouldn't do it based on paper on a spreadsheet, then there's no utility. You're doing it for emotional reasons rather than utility reasons. So back to the original thing. Right? Yeah. If we had sciences, so let's just say the gut response is that when somebody gets shot, the AR-15s have to go away, right? Do you think it's a good idea to take weapons from people?
No.
Okay. Is it a way?
It's a way.
Is it the only way?
No.
Okay. Is it a doable way? Is it even possible?
Completely? I don't think so.
Okay. What would be, there are requirements. Like if I'm the noble tyrant, right? I have to make sure that in order for you to let me do it, that you can't bow out at a certain point and then lose your support for it. So if you ask for something and I give it to you and then you're angry with all the repercussions, you're going to be mad at me.
Yeah.
Right. And so the social sciences are supposed to weigh this out. So if I went up there and said, hey, we want to end violence, right? I want you to study what causes violence. What on a probabilities chart makes violence more likely and what makes violence less likely. Okay. Yeah. And then they're going to do a bunch of research and they're going to, grab focus groups and groups together to find out what makes people angry. They'll play certain music, have them exposed to certain media, talk to them and say certain things and see what the effects of certain things culturally, right, makes people more violent. And then we're like, okay, we can't take guns away from people because that's one of the liberties. And no matter what we do, we're going to shed a liberty. But we're only going to take liberties away on things that aren't guaranteed as, they're more granted, not as a right, but it's a luxury of our society. So I'm going to take those things away. So in Australia, they're like 16-year-old kids, total ban on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all of that social media gone.
They did this?
They did this. It took effect on Friday, right?
Ooh, interesting. All right.
So those products are all luxuries. There's no right to have access to applications and they took it away from it. So that is a research into Australia. Watch that very, watch that with all the details and the repercussions that come out of that. Give me the downside of limiting social exposure to anyone under 16.
God, I feel like there are more upsides. Put a downside. Let's think. The downside. I mean, when I think of what social media has become and the illusion, the fakeness of it with AI and falsified videos and things of that nature, are we delaying someone learning about that? Like, are now we going to have a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds that are like, wait, what? That video's fake? What? I can't believe that, when maybe they could have learned that sooner.
And the social sciences will say the costs of taking like the social degradation where people don't have digital interactions sets them up to have a harder time with social interactions on the digital side later in life.
Yeah.
And then I say, but the percentage of extremist violent behavior is X. So you get to choose delay in digital social experiences with a lack of violence and no stabbings, no shootings. And what I'm going to say, no, I'm going to say less.
Yeah.
So you have to make a trade-off and saying, if I homeschool my kid, it keeps them away from those extremists learning bad habits, behaviors, and bad, social etiquette at the deal where socially they're going to be a little bit delayed, where I got to make up the difference as a parent. Those both are costs, and you get to weigh them across the board, right?
Yeah.
But now we're taking a real social problem where violence is prevalent and desensitization to loss of life, right? So we've already done that. It's not like, what do we do about it? It's already done that. We have whole people who don't trust the system for good cause. They see death happening in everything that they consume, so they're desensitized. Killing someone is just a respawn point somewhere else in the game. Then we have, on the political side, we have dehumanizing people, taking full categories of people and making them less than human. So now we have people that are exposed to violence and desensitized to it. We have the ability to pick up a pitchfork, a knife, a gun, whatever it is in your disposal. And then we sort of got the permission from other people. If you're an insurance CEO, insurance company CEO, that one might be a little all right.
Yeah.
Instead of simple foundational principles, right? Do you kill? No.
Yeah.
Right? Across the board. And so you're these sort of secularists, I pick on those guys a whole lot too. They figured everybody would just come to some conclusions that they're going to be good people.
Yeah.
Because human beings, that's what
everybody
we do.
just knows what's good
right
and what's
wrong
bad,
is.
right and wrong. Yeah.
So in your small scale, so in your home, do you think children, when they see parents modeling behavior, they have a high probability of exhibiting that behavior later in life?
Yeah.
Social science would say absolutely.
Yeah.
So
good and bad.
If you see athletes doing certain things, does that increase the probability of someone modeling it after someone they admire?
Yeah.
Okay. If they see actors and musicians modeling certain behavior, do you think there's a certain contagion to that where they will do those certain things?
Yeah.
So it'd be a much more reasonable ban to take the material, video games, movies, music, and anything that exhibits violence. Let's ban that shit from. What's the cultural cost of a rapper not talking about their bitches and hoes and gunning someone down? What's the cultural cost of that?
I don't know. Someone who is hanging out with their bitches and hoes and violence can't relate to the music.
Okay, so you'd have a little downside where you'd have the
nobody understands my way of life.
The thugs and pimps, they would feel slighted. The First Amendment rights were limited, and all the Christians who said this is something the devil would do. They would poison the brains of people that were, forming their own gray matter.
They would encourage and celebrate that behavior.
But so if you go back in time and say. It started with like Larry Flint, and when music started exhibiting those kiss properties, right, of being devilish, and all the church ladies were saying that's going to lead to bad things. Well, she's sitting in her pew right now saying, listen, I told you, I don't care anymore. I'm in a retirement home. I'm keeping all you dangerous people out on the streets. And every time you complain that there's downside to the choices that you made, I'm out. I told you so already.
Yeah, it started with little things, and this is going to corrupt our youth.
It corrupted them.
And they got a little corrupt, and then we amped up the entertainment, and this could corrupt our youth, and then that got corrupt.
Yeah, we blessed it. We allowed it to happen, and these are the repercussions. And no single action, no pill is going to make it less, except for a cultural change that says, we're sick of it. We know it's connected. If those institutions of academics would actually draw the scientific conclusions of what causes us to be terrible, they would come with so we didn't like the controls of religion telling us to go do good things, right? We didn't need that. That was hampering our expression of who we really were.
Themselves.
Because just like you can model good behaviors and seeing somebody in your church doing something that doesn't make sense and using emotion to be able to counter human intuition and instinct that might be on the bad side of things. You have the opposite. We're like, hey, that dude came to church every day and he gave money to people who didn't ask for anything in return, and he fed some hungry people. Like, I'm going to model after that because the people I admire are doing something that doesn't make actual sense instead of the guy that wants to shoot up and do drugs and have bitches and hoes.
Because they're going to keep pointing out the exception. Well, that's a good person, and they don't believe in God, and they don't go to church, and they don't do this and that, and they still give money, and they still help the poor, and they still help people. And so it must not. And it's like, it's not that you have to do certain things in order to get certain results, but in general, overall,
no, those are outliers where when scientifically, when it is measured and studied, you come to a conclusion. Think of a probability table. When you do one action, it makes certain things more probable or less probable, right? So if right now I slammed a gun down on the table, right? In your brain, what I made more probable, right? What the cost of slamming that down, what becomes more likely, what becomes less likely. And you would feel certain ways about what just happened. It happens everywhere. So the minute that you invite something in and use emotional responses to invite it in and deny the consequences of the action that happened, and then they get revealed to you, right? You can't be outraged that the thing that should have been known before you did it then happens in the real world. That's where I know too many dumb people are in control of things when I see this happening. So Jeff says logic isn't equal, though. Sometimes it's geographical. Sometimes it's cultural. My experience is that logic has an emotional component to it, too. I lived in LA for 24 years. I left Y-Town to chase some dreams and found them. Came home to care for my mom. People around here can't comprehend chasing dreams. People, for the most part, are ultra conservative, and it's tough to get them out of this geographical societal envelope where they can understand what I did. I don't agree with you that logic is equal. There are different logics, and think in terms of a set of principles and guidance and rule sets. That's always just a precursor to telling you what it is that you're going to do. And emotion is the fuel behind your logic, the purpose and reason that you're following the logical steps. So, if the founders put in the reason we're doing this whole social government experiment is the pursuit of happiness, right? There are three things that are promised. You want life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So when you go back and make a decision, you go back to the reason that you started doing it. The rest of the document is basically foundation of supporting the emotional end. So I want to be an actor, right? That's an emotional response. Logic says that you're not going to be an actor. There's no way to do that right now. You're not in a position to be an actor. So the emotional fuel for doing the rest of what you're going to do, the logic steps is how I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to make it more probable that you're going to become an actor by doing X, Y, Z. And then you follow the rules that you put in the logic steps, fueled by the emotional steps that's on line one.
Real quickly, I want to point out, was it Jerry who said, glad to see we're not on a 2-hour delay?
Yes, we've actually followed the rules governing the rest of society where people show up and do what they're expected to do.
Was your kid on a 2-hour delay today? Mine too.
Yep.
Yeah. How do you feel about people around here can't comprehend chasing dreams? That's interesting.
I am the most logical person and I chase dreams. They are not in conflict.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. What's interesting is I have been around people here, like, and when I say here, I mean like Youngstown, Mahoning Valley region, that seem to bash it a lot and talk a lot about wanting to get out, but never do. So that's one situation where I'm like, if you truly want something different, then go.
That's emotional too. If you have a sort of like a systemic, cynicism, right?
Yeah.
Where you think of everybody around here and, again, modeling good behavior. Do you have a lot of like prominent people who tell you that we can do this and we can be good and we can build things and whatever? It's the cynics that are in charge, and the cynics model cynical behavior about telling you about how they're a victim of circumstance instead of something that can be done. Right.
Yeah.
And that it is, I'll agree with Jeff that it's really it's a quandary for certain areas, but the concentration of the type of person in a certain area then sort of like mirrors that culture out to your area. And we just happen to be around a bunch of really cynical people who have been victimized by whatever culture class that they're in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people maybe stay because their dream is here. It's maybe not fulfilled, but it's something that they're envisioning and maybe having a tough go at.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of those people who my son's one of them. He says a whole bunch of outlandish things that are unlikely to happen. And as a dad, I have to give him just enough logic to make it more likely, because you don't want someone to put something like, I'm going to be the next Taylor Swift, right? Because that is very unlikely. The baking show, very unlikely to happen. So you don't want to dissuade someone just by the very low percentage chance that thing's going to happen. But once you've decided to do that thing, as long as that emotion will fuel the hard things to make it more likely. So in a year, if my son said, I want to be a congressman, I want to be the youngest congressman that ever got elected, I wouldn't be like, no, you can't be congressman. It's tough duty and you're too young and you have to raise all this money and you need all these connections. You can't do that. As a father, I'd want to say that because I want to protect him from something that is a very dangerous industry to go in.
Yeah.
That has a very low likelihood of success, right? But I wouldn't say that. I was like, okay, you're going to be a congressman. You're willing to do everything that it takes to be a congressman. Here's what it takes to be a congressman. I go find one. I find out what they did. Are you willing to do everything on this list? And like, yep, I'm willing to do that.
And are you willing to live with what it comes with?
Exactly. But I think a lot of the dreamer thing is sort of like the irresponsible dreamers who go into it saying, I'm just going to move out to California. I'm going to do my thing. And I don't know where I'm going to live. And I know what I'm going to do. I don't have any contacts out there and whatever.
Just going for it.
That one is setting someone up for extreme failure, because there are like 20 things you can do while you're planning this and preparing to go to California that can raise the probability so you don't have to be a cautionary tale.
You know what else I hear a lot, and I feel like it is such a cliche? When people say, I'm going to manifest it. I'm manifesting it. And maybe
it means something different between you and I, but out there it does not.
I think when I see people say that term, to me it means I'm just going to keep living my life, but think a lot about what I want. And it's like, there's a difference between thinking about it and doing something about it.
That's an improper ratio of emotionalization when you say you're going to manifest it.
Yeah.
There's actually, like, again, sciences to be able to prove when somebody, okay, so this is sort of the practice, and this is the secret sauce of manifestation. Now, is manifestation magic?
You're asking me or what I think these people saying it think?
Let's be sarcastic, and it's the people out there.
I think some people think it's magic. It's like a spiritual, the universe is going to bring it to you.
Dab some frankincense on my eyeballs, and something magical is going to happen.
Burn some sage and wear my crystals,
we have that in us.
And manifest
we believe in things, but then we don't figure out, like, when you do what it is to manifest something, what you're actually doing. And so the sciences say that when you repeat something to yourself over and over again, you're convincing your subconscious brain. So if I told you that, in your conscious brain, you're making decisions all day, but you're probably doing less than 1% of actually deciding in your conscious brain. There are millions of decisions that are happening in the subconscious that you don't have privy to. They're just happening in the background. There's subsystems that are just promoting whatever you tell yourself to do. Right. Mm-hmm. And those decisions it's making in the background are going to feel kind of magical to you when they actually happen to you. So if you've talked yourself into congressman, right, and you're just like a manifester, I'm going to be a congressman, and the first obstacle hits you where it says you're not going to be a congressman, right? The first real world example, not a person telling you, but a real obstacle that is going to convince you, is there to convince you that you're not going to be
a problem.
And if you've stubborned yourself into it, then you get to that obstacle and you're like, I don't care. I'm just jump over that anyway. Or if your subconscious makes different decisions that makes that obstacle really small versus if you did nothing to it, then it would be equally as big. So if you're stubborn and deluded, you're saying that obstacle is not there, and I just don't agree that it's there. And a third party perspective is going to say, no, it's really there. right?
Yeah.
So there's some people that find success just from delusion alone. They delude themselves into a state where they just wandered and tripped over all the obstacles and they made it anyhow. That is not the mathematical majority there. That is the mathematical minority. You don't want to pull that one because yes, it seems magical in spite of it shouldn't have happening, that it ended up happening anyway. I would prefer a hybrid of those two. Use your subconscious, use manifesting, use sheer stubbornness to keep going towards a really hard thing until you've eventually conquered it. But give yourself the highest likelihood that you can actually accomplish it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the difference between I manifested it and I worked really hard for it and I did what I needed to do and I took the proper steps to it? Is that manifesting it? Is it the same thing? Or is it just, well, you did what needed to be done to accomplish something?
On paper, you did the same thing.
And so I think you could say, I'm going to manifest this and mean I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to follow the proper steps. But like, if there's someone who's like, I want to be a singer. I'm going to be a famous singer-songwriter and I'm going to play the guitar and I'm going to perform gigs and everyone's going to come see me. And you've never taken a vocal lesson. You don't sing well. You know a couple of chords, but no full songs. You're like, but I bought a guitar and I'm going to call this venue and say, hey, can I come sing one weekend? Because I'm a singer. And it's like, you're not though, but you're not.
Yeah.
You know, like, you got to do all these other things, but and then you can say, I'm manifesting.
We've got, hundreds, if not thousands of years of social evolution where we could know a little bit about how things are done. So we don't have to have these kids who can do, algebra, right? But don't know how their brain operates. Like, how do you get to the point where we're all like wandering in when every generation can teach the other generation how this stuff actually works, but nobody seems to know it. They want to gravitate towards the mysterious, the mystical, and the, supernatural without understanding what those things are. It, like I said, blows my mind.
Jeff says Michael Stanley song Heartland. Some of them think about leaving, but not many ever really do.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody thought I left. I left for a long time and chose to come back. And everyone's like, oh, why would you come back? Why would you come? Like, I don't think Youngstown is where dreams go to die. I think there's potential anywhere you go, and depending on what you want to do, you can find it here. Maybe you can't. But yeah, it's kind of, I don't think there's like this inexplicable barrier that is just like, oh, you've got to go elsewhere to do something. I think you can make where you are that thing with certain steps. Could it be more difficult? Absolutely. But
every place is going to align with someone's capabilities. Okay. So if I did my business in a different city, there would be differences between market here and market there. There would be upsides and downsides. So logically, I would say, let's just say I want to conquer Columbus, right? We'll do all the same thing. Do you think there's more money in Columbus than there is in Youngstown? Do you think the competition for that money is higher or lower in Columbus?
Probably higher.
Okay. So if you look proportionally, there's more money, but there are more people at the trough for that money.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there has to be an advantage underneath it that says, I'm going to take a skill set that I have, and it's going to align with what Columbus has to offer rather than Youngstown has to offer. And I hate cliches and whatever, but choose your hard is a really, big deal. Right. So if my hard is, could I come into a place like Youngstown, do the same exact thing, know the type of people that I'm going to be dealing with, how to be successful in it? Yeah, I could take over any Youngstown that's on the planet. I would struggle a little bit more in a Columbus or Cleveland big markets because it's different dynamics, different mathematics, and I'd have to create new disciplines that allow me to operate how I do, change it, and translate it for another market. That's what everybody has to do. So if you're an actor and you're in, how many acting gigs do you think you can get in Youngstown, Ohio?
You mean in any capacity, or are we talking film?
Just any capacity.
I was saying, it seems like you could do a lot of stage acting here.
Okay.
That might be it. Maybe some background work, or probably not like not like in LA, New York, but
okay. So basically,
a handful.
The deal is you have the concentration of films being produced in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
And you have more people vying for gigs, right? So your competition goes up. So if you're If you're a mediocre actor, the chance that you get a part in Youngstown, Ohio is higher, probabilities wise. If you're a mediocre actor and you go to Los Angeles, you are now a big fish or a small fish in a big pond versus the other way around.
Yeah.
So if you're really good and then you go someplace and you're a high competitor in that deal, you'll be just fine. But the problem is most of those undeveloped people that have huge dreams haven't developed their craft, where they almost need moped. You know the moped thing? I ever told you the moped thing?
I don't think
As
so.
kids, we used to, as we're talking about dating and getting in relationships, and you're really bad at dating in the very beginning. So you don't want to meet the person you're going to end up with, and you're really bad at dating.
Yeah.
And we used to call them mopeds. This is probably the most sexist thing I'm
Moped
going to say
is
today.
the person you're dating
Yes.
but don't want to end up
So,
with?
yes. So a moped is really fun to ride, but you don't want to get caught riding one.
Oh,
right?
that's just wrong.
But we use moped as a way to work on your craft of being a good partner in a relationship. And, and you don't want your perfect one to come along too soon until you're a lot better at dating.
That's funny. Years and years ago, an old boyfriend and I went on a vacation to Mexico. And as we were checking into the hotel, the person checking us in, so he's like, oh, married or practicing? And we were like,
perfect.
Practicing.
That's what better than what we came up with, but it means the same thing.
Yeah.
Jeff says, that's what I did, left not knowing anyone, really. I had never even visited. I had a paramedic degree from YSU. I was 20, and that was it. When I got off the plane, some weird guy with a guitar and no luggage stalked me, trying to get me to hang out.
Whoa.
Hang out with him after a flight. 24 of an awesome life later. Yeah, and that's, and we get enamored with the lottery winners, the people who, in spite of everything, still figured out how to do it.
I moved, I lived in my car, and now I'm a big famous star.
When perseverance is a real thing, right? And in a 30-second attention span type of society, perseverance doesn't exist. If I do it now, I want instant gratification. If I don't get it right away, I'm going to give up and I'm going to go cry and make it someone else's fault. That's where we really are. Yeah. So the sampling of society that could actually persevere through as many obstacles and stay stubborn enough to be able to make it, very minuscule. So your competition is lacking. Okay. And these are sort of like natural filters in physics that as soon as you know that they exist, like you just have to be not the person in that line. You have to be in a different line and know what's really happening in society. But that's social sciences should be teaching this. But if they taught this and everybody and social sciences would change, and then everything I'm telling you wouldn't work because that's what everybody's doing. So there's this quandary in my brain at all times.
Well, and I think too, people in an area, the decision makers in an area, need to know, like you said, what hand they have, what resources they have that are desired. Like we talked when it comes to acting, filmmaking. Obviously, everyone knows New York and LA as the places where movies are made. I was living in Columbus, Georgia for a long time. And over the last several years, those people in the area said, we have a lot of aspiring actors here. We have a lot of people that want to make movies here. Who knows about little Columbus, Georgia? Probably no one. In the last 5 years, Columbus, Georgia now has a film studio. John Travolta made a film there. Tommy Lee Jones made a film there. Kristen Davis made a film there. Who else was there? Brian, what's his face from The Office was there. Judd Nelson has been there in the last 5 years, because they realized that Georgia in general is very, what's the word? It's very, it can look like anything. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of things that stand out as, oh, I'm clearly looking at Georgia, I'm clearly looking at a Savannah kind of Florida area. I'm clearly looking at a whatever. It's something that can look like any place geographically. And they like that what is the word I am looking for? It looks like middle ground, basically. And I think people, when they capitalize on something, can then turn it into something bigger or greater. But
that's just technology, though.
Technology.
Yeah, that happened in Silicon Valley in the advancement of computer chips and whatever. Like you used to have Silicon Valley, that all the technology happened in California. and then you watch it spread out into different areas as technology got better, where when resources were far away from you, you could just simply move the resources closer to you.
Yeah.
And there's other advantages when it gets too overdone, where there's too many people vying for the same resources, then going to another place, even though it's not concentrated, and being like, if you set up a film studio in Youngstown, Ohio, right? A lot of the things that happen in LA are only there because all your things are super close to you, and there's talent that's close to you. There's studios that are close to you. There's directors that are close to you. Now people start moving out into other areas, and they get a benefit of being in Georgia, where the landscape's good for different shots, where they don't have to travel so much to different areas. They can kind of all do it there.
Yeah.
Now your actors have to travel, but airfare's cheap. It's easy to move people around the country. You have technology where you can take your footage and send it off to the editors that are in a different state. So technology caught up with it and allowed it to expand into different areas.
So really then we have the abilities to make certain areas bigger than they have been. I guess my point here is the Youngstowns of the world don't necessarily have to be the places that people need to leave to find what they're looking for or achieve their dreams or build or whatever,
right?
What have you. Getting messages. That was my point. That was it.
But if you look at areas though, and Youngstown was caught in sort of like a catch-22, right? There's a guy I was listening to a couple months ago that said innovations happen one death at a time, right? And when you have an area that is concentrated with a bunch of victims, that the union's destroyed. We have great work ethic, great ability, but the poisoning of brains of that you're a victim of things and everybody's the enemy, and really like beat you down as far as how you feel about your communities.
Yeah.
All those people have to die off until the next generation. And it's no guarantee that the next generation aren't going to model and adopt the principles of who birthed them, right?
Yeah.
And become another generation of cynics that don't believe in things and shoot them down super quick and think they're smarter than they are and think they're entitled to more than they have. I make the argument that it'll probably get worse with the next generation. So
yeah. And yeah, because like I said, I saw it when we moved back to the area, and I was encountering all these people like, why would you come back here? Why do you want to live here? Oh, this sucks. Oh, this sucks. And I came, I guess, with fresh eyes, appreciating everything. Like, look at this cool little hole in the wall. We don't have anything like this. Or look what you can do over here, and that's awesome. Or how close you are to, a major city where you have these different resources. My kids, yesterday, my son went sled riding for the first time ever. And he thought that was amazing. Here, everyone's like, oh, so it's snow. We always get snow. I go sled riding all the time. Well, take that away, give it to somebody with fresh eyes who's never done it, and it seems amazing. And so it's almost like you said, we maybe have too many cynics and not enough people appreciating potential.
Well,
and
but those cynics are a result of our programming.
Yeah.
Just like if you consumed, like we started out talking, you consume violent things and it ups the probability.
Yeah.
But
They've been here in it for so long.
Yeah. You would have to have one leader that decides, okay, we want to change this around by unpoisoning brains and building groups of people who can model good behavior, and then show by that example without anybody along the way becoming greedy, right? And not getting self-interested. Like when I describe this, I'm thinking, okay, the only group that I know that will do a long thing that makes a lot of sense without, putting self-interest in there is the freaking church. Like it's always the answer, because no other group, I've done business in this area forever, right? I've coupled people together and do cooperatives between interests that otherwise would never do business together. And they did it for the sole purpose of making something better. Both of them were giving up more than they were receiving. And I'm like, how do I keep them in the mode of not one time saying, oh, we got all this money and we got this prosperity because we did this thing. Now I'm done. I'm going to grab all my stuff. I'm going to be made better because of it. Now it's about me. How do you keep someone on a trajectory for a really long time to do the principled right thing? It never happens. Not a single instance. I have to plan for its destruction at a certain point and do predictors of when I want to make sure that nobody has exposure when it finally collapses on itself. So the church is the only thing that never collapses on itself. It has the principles that are just in the blind taken as the gospel, and it's followed without question. And you might argue with whether or not you want free thinkers. Well, free thinkers are creating the entropy that destroys everything meaningful in high concentrations. So you got to do two things. Either up your game on controlling the masses in high concentration with good messaging and good principles, or break everything into small groups where you don't have to have, concentrate or, sort of like discipled thought. It's one or the other. And so long that we concentrate things where it's the federal, I would argue that I want to have 27 federal governments. Okay. Break it up so that we have smaller groups, far less people. Interests can gravitate towards governments that will help them in whatever they feel about. We can't operate as one country with a set of principles that everybody could agree with. Everybody says, I'm not going to get everything I want, so I'm going to take everything I want. And that's where you can't have what we're dictating right now.
I'm just trying to picture that. That would be interesting.
Yeah, that can't happen either. But it's a thought experiment where it's more likely to work with different complications.
Just different groups.
You can't have 350 million people in a federal government fulfilling all the needs of the people it's governed. Our country was based on maybe a couple million people tops.
Jeff says, right, too many cynics. That's the issue. Do you think we have too many cynics here?
I think it's more of a reflection. So what makes a cynic?
Probably feeling beat down.
Why would you feel beat down?
Feeling like you can't advance anywhere. You can't move things in any direction. You can't.
Well, you don't come to those feelings. Those aren't natural feelings. You have to be told that those are things.
Yeah.
And there's a group of people who can take control of all of your actions if they tell you that you're a victim often enough. And then eventually you get beat down to the point. There's enough evidence out there that says things aren't fair, right? And then you're like, oh, it's not fair because I'm a victim and that person told me so. And I was programmed correctly to now I am a cynic because now I believe in all of the conspiracy to hold me down and to weight the game against me.
That you have no say and you've got to do what you're told. And
yeah. So, but that's again, the YSU thing. You can study civilizations. Like if you get five people to an area, all of them have equally started their pursuit of happiness. How are you going to stop that if somebody gets a little bit ahead, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to stop them from insulating to make sure nobody catches up? Because it's one thing if it's a fair race where if you're just faster, you win the race. And as long as the race only has 10 laps, everybody knows that the redemption is they get to start the game again and everybody has started over from the same position. And then the people who are winning know that they can't pull this out forever. So they insulate themselves to make it harder for other people to compete against them. And now you do have an argument that this person won and is winning. And now they made it harder for someone to come in and win too.
Yeah.
So how do you, if you're engineering this and you want to make sure nobody has a leg up or an insulated advantage, how would you do that?
Well, I guess you have to set some guidelines.
Okay. Those are going to be principles. Those are rules of logic that make sure someone doesn't get an insulated advantage. But what if the insulated advantage benefits you? How am I going to talk you out of that once you've gotten somewhere and you earned it, that somehow yours is safe, right? You no longer have to fight. All that means is the next guy, he can't compete for what you have because we've cordoned it off and made it safe. I'm going to tell him like, yeah, I know you might be better at Kelin in this acting role, but she's got this magical thing that she's been here 10 years, right? You haven't been here for 10 years. She's got seniority over you. Even though you're better, you can't take what Kelin has. And now they're like a spot's being taken by someone who's just been here. And now we don't want Kelin to have to, compete for her job, right? We want her to feel safe. So what happens when you don't have to compete for your job? You now have an insulated advantage that is meaningless except for to take people and make them a cynic. We've populated that's how cynics are birthed. Why would I try hard if Kellen's safe?
Yeah. Why would I try hard if it literally doesn't matter what I do.
That's exactly right. But we knew that we were giving you, that's exactly what you wanted. Nobody can stay in a warring position forever. So for you to feel safe, it means that you can let your guard down and just focus on whatever it is that you're doing. But then we've taken someone and we've told them your job's going to be harder because Kelin wants to be safe.
So where should the weight lie? You don't feel safe. You got to keep
never
working hard.
Safe. It should always be a competition. In a free market, it's messier. You have people competing harder. You have the best in all merits are the ones that succeed. You have more losers in that game.
Do away with tenure.
But you also have a reset button that if you sucked yesterday, if you start today, everybody's starting from the same starting line. And you at least have a choice or chance that if you work harder today, you might have slacked before, but today when you hit that reset button, you at least can go against Kelin, and I'll give you the job over Kelin because you outworked her. And then the force that gets put on you is that you're competing for that job and you got to work harder too. But again, it's not better in all respects. It's actually worse in some respects, but at least it's math. We understand that it feels good to be given an advantage. And it's only when you consider that you then disadvantage someone else that you're like, well, we shouldn't do that. How do we do that? I want my advantage, but how do I not make a disadvantage for someone else?
Yeah, I mean, you see that in corporate too with like vacation time. Hey, people with seniority get first crack of the days they want off, and you're just going to have to take off anything else that they don't want to. And you're like, but I wanted those days off too. Sorry, I've been here long enough. They've got seniority.
But we're so dead because
everywhere.
When you say corporate, I thought you were going on this road. I'll go down this road for you.
Okay.
So if I'm a corporation, when you get in something, you start accumulating power and influence on something. Like when you get into it, nobody listens to you, don't know enough about it. When you come really good, you actually can control the gravities surrounding something. Mm-hmm. So let's just say I start Joe's, microchip factory right here in Youngstown. Like the first thing is I'm going to put up a good product that people want to buy, but I also don't want other people to compete against me. So I get to a certain point and people want me in town. I can start wielding it and saying, here's city council. Here's what I want. I'm not even going to do this anymore if you don't give me exclusivity. So someone can't come into my market and make sure nobody produces chips, right? Mm-hmm. Lay down some groundwork. I'll do it. I'll help you. I'll give to your campaign. You got to make sure that Bob over there, he's better than me and I don't want him in this industry. Keep him out, regulate him, moratorium him, make sure he doesn't do business. And you're like, well, I got Joe, he's doing it. Now in the natural world, Bob would be able to set up a chip manufacturer right next to mine, and the better chip needs to win. And if all things are fair, we both get to compete. We both have the same rules that we have to follow, a complete natural logical deal. Now, but that's in a perfect utopian world, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the natural world. So if you read Utopia, which you didn't, how about Animal Farm? Animal Farm?
Is that a book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I've never even heard of that.
Everybody.
I've heard of Animal House.
No, everybody has read Animal Farm. And so here's the premise. It's about animals, right? Okay. But there's a lot of metaphors in these animals. And there was a farmer, and I forget his name. The farmer. I
was like, who is that?
There's a farmer, and he's kind of like a jerk, right? The animals do not like jerk farmer, right? The rules that he has and how he treats them, and they just disagree with what the status quo is. You know what they want? What? They want their freedom. So the animals conspire, right, to get rid of the farmer and be all on their own. And spoilers if you don't want me to ruin the ending for you.
Yeah, I feel like you're gonna ruin it for me.
I'm gonna ruin it.
Spoiler alert.
And what ends up happening is the animals become the farmer once they're in control. They split into factions. They're mean to one another. They set all these rules. They give certain advantages to some species of the animal. And they became exactly what, the farmer was.
Yeah.
Worse than what the farmer was. So in the social sciences, understanding and agreeing with them to break off and do their own thing is noble and it feels good, giving you your freedoms, but then watch them make all the same mistakes that the farmer did, then, shifts the camera around and says, hold on, we started this story way too late in the story. And we made a judgment based on what things have become without having the context of what made them become where they are.
Yeah.
And then knowing the tendencies of all things to become the thing that they objected to when they're in the positions of power, like, it's supposed to make you think in exactly that way.
Yeah, I mean, you thought you knew what was better and you wanted to change something, but you don't know how they got there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Right. And so like we started this out with, engineering your utopia, engineering the thing that is impossible to have means that you don't wish to remove all of the bad frictions that make up your society, even though you want to.
Yeah.
Right. It's a bunch of small cuts where you make things better by making them marginally better, not across the board better. So if I said something like, I'm going to make a big move to make something better, I bet you what you do will make it worse instead of better. But if I'm like, I'm going to make it a little bit better, I'm going to take and, do 16-year-olds aren't looking at social media, right? That's marginally going to improve things. Not going to solve it. No magic pill. Didn't change a whole lot. Very little downside, but it made it marginally better. And you experiment with these small changes that have most amount of impact with the least amount of liberty. Remember, we got 3 words that we have to serve.
Yeah.
Right? Life, you have to be alive. Right?
Yep.
Liberty, you have to be unrestricted to a point. Like liberty doesn't mean a freeway, right? Where you can do everything you want. It means when you're pushing against them, you are making it always more free than it was before. Not free like on Animal Farm where I'm in control of everything. Because what would you do as Kelin if there were no speed limits, there were no traffic regulations, there were no anything? What would the freeway be?
That's a free-for-all.
It wouldn't be you that you would worry about.
Oh, yeah. I'd worry about everyone
Laws
else.
are meant to keep you safe from other people.
Yeah.
Not restricting you in what you can and can't do. I'd be more afraid somebody going 150 miles per hour
while on their phone
than how mad I would be that I can only go 75 miles an hour. But and again, so it's not the utopia or Animal Farm because you're going to do that wrong. It's right now the pendulum is in the wrong direction and I'm going to marginally improve it so it goes down to the middle. And I need the frictions that I feel victimized by to be there, but I need the answers to those things to push in the other direction. Where can you ever see a Republican saying, you know what? We had 15 years of Republican control or 12 years of Republican control. We made a lot of prosperity and there's a lot of extra wealth. Let's elect a Democrat and let them trim and pare down some of the prosperity that we created, give them a couple years to do their thing, and they'll swing back in our direction. Do you ever think they'd do that willingly?
No.
Or it would be if the Republicans had said, hey, you guys could have 100 years of control, do you think they would take it? Would be a single person that says, that's too long. Like, we're going to get too many of our way. Too much
that may not be a good balance. That may not be a good idea. No, they're going to be like, okay.
Right. No one would see the danger in skewing things too far in one direction. We need to be right in the center. That's where physics wants us to be.
Yeah.
And having a good gauge. And it's not that the Republicans wouldn't trust the data. You know who the Republicans wouldn't trust?
Who?
The Democrats.
Yeah.
It's the prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if you don't take these 100 years, I'm going to go into that other office and they'll take the 100 years. And they're like, no, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
You're afraid of what the other driver will do, not you. And that's what Animal Farm and the metaphors, the Bible, I'm telling you, all of our answers are in when we actually told stories that were supposed to give you a feeling of nobility and virtues, right?
Yeah.
You can start judging what's happening today by the virtues you learned in literature. And probably more than literature, but if you did nothing else but read the works between, 1830 and all the way up into probably the 1950s, it would be peppered with all of the wisdoms that you never have to talk to a person. Just read books in that era.
Yeah, do you think if there was someone who was somehow so sheltered, they heard no stories, no parables, no nothing that had a moral of the story is kind of vibe or do unto others, nothing. They just grew up. Would they know right from wrong?
No. Nope. They would have a version of it. The golden rule would probably be one that would be most intuitive, right? When you do something and immediately it's done to you and you feel bad about, right?
Yeah, they would be like, but I didn't like when I did
without
this,
an experience, if you would just know it, no.
Yeah, I think people think that it's just like an innate thing, Yeah. Right?
I'm telling you that's my
evil
pushback against secularists, because they believe they have this foundation of Christian principles that they adopted in.
Yeah.
Right. And they can't take responsibility. It's already built in culture. But they think that people just come to conclusions that are virtuous and good. And nature does not say that. You think a lion that's creeping up on its prey that's thinking, I wonder how that prey feels today. I wonder if he's going to be sad as I rip into his neck. He's not feeling that. It's survival instincts. We are just a couple degrees above those killer instincts. And we get to play there, not very well, but we get to play there a little bit.
Self-interest. Victimhood.
That's natural.
I think if they're in an environment that encourages that and breeds that, it takes some form of intervention to change that. But now we have systems in place that thrive off of that mentality. And so they'll push back against any intervention as though you're the terrible person.
Well, that'll always exist, but as long as it doesn't become the majority, then we're fine. But I feel like we're at the majority, and you can't push against it. It breaks to a certain point where it's got too much weight to be solvable.
Too much weight to be solvable.
Yeah, and that's what we've allowed to happen because smart people weren't in control that said, "Hold up, you've been in power for 27 years. It's time to take your foot off the gas." If now you're on your year 50. Go ahead and solve Republican control in every state house and without balancing 50 years. And now go to the Democrats and say, this year's our year. We're going to win, right? Mm-hmm. It's become unsolvable because you allowed one thing to fester in one direction for so long. If you don't think that they made it impossible for a new guy starting to be insulated completely from even competing, you don't know human beings.
How do you feel, just out of curiosity, how do you feel about sales positions? And rules around if I remember I worked in sales one time years ago, and among all the salespeople, there was a rule that if one salesperson reached out to in any way to a certain potential customer, a phone call, an email, chatted with them, anything, and they marked that down, no one else can touch that company. Nobody. They've already been trying. That's theirs. And then maybe there's different markets, and then maybe there's different things, and it's all assigned to people, and the other salespeople not allowed to touch it. Makes that person feel safe, but you'll quickly run out of things for any newcomers. Do you like that? Is there advantage to that?
Same as tenure. Yeah, but it's different because when I'm talking to two people that are cooperating in an industry, and I want to make sure that someone doesn't put their self-interest above and totally forget why we started doing this, right?
Yeah.
The tenure thing. We'll use your example. So, if you let me think of a good analogy here. If you have small groups and I can talk to you individually, I can work that because it's a transaction. It's an agreement between two people. And in a transaction, you have an ask. Okay. And both people have to have an ask and get rewarded for something. So if we're like, okay, if I make this phone call, then I'm going to claim it because I really don't want people, taking all of my leads that would be terrible. So I'm going to say, if I'm willing to do, I'm the great digger upper. So now what's the ask? If you're able to claim something without having to give it up, if you make first contact on it, what are you willing to give up to the other person as advantage on their department? So long that you come up with something like, okay, I'll make it competitive here. I'll give up my advantage here, but you're going to give your advantage up over here. And so long two people stick to the agreement, then that can happen. Now, if you just take something that there is no give on the other side of it, what's the benefit of making first contact and getting the sales call? So if I bring a case of, my wife used to do this, by the way, so I'm going to use this as an example. If I buy a case of soda, right? Uh-huh. And got too many people in the house and everybody drinks a soda, but I want soda and everybody's going to take it. There's going to compete for it. Yeah. But I have a rule that if I put my lips on it, what's going to stop someone just putting their lips on all the cans and putting it back on there and put a sign that says, my lips have all been on there.
Oh, yeah.
And depriving everyone else from a fair shot at getting one of those sodas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my agreement with her is if you can probably put your lips on one, claim one of them. But if you ever claim two, you lose soda privileges altogether. If you abuse the system, and we can make that work in small groups. You take the lips on soda can and you multiply it by the entire country, where you can't have uniform punishment for abusing a system, and you got everybody putting their lips on everything.
Can't you all just divide it when it first gets there? Hey, it's a 12 pack. We all get 4.
Too practical. Too practical. Yes, you could engineer. That would make sense. You could engineer something like that.
So
using your example though, if a salesperson took the entire list, let's just say you got a list of 1,000, what would stop them from making just all the calls down the sheet to have made first contact with everybody's there, cut everybody completely out, and then go back later and have the full conversations, where Bill spending 10 minutes with each one. And by the time he makes a second call, Tom over here made all the calls and he gets all of the customers.
Yeah.
That's the lip thing.
Yeah. And that's kind of exactly how it worked, is because the argument basically was, it can be a lengthy process to sort of court a business or reach out to them and introduce yourself, and then maybe sort of talk about what it is you sell, but develop a relationship there, and then maybe check back in down the road if it's a better time, or get a meeting with them. It could be a process. And so if somebody's like, hey, I already reached out, I introduced myself, I sent them some information, they want to wait and not be swarmed, but they don't want someone else to be like, oh, well, I just showed up and went in and got a meeting with them. Like, I get the rationale behind it, but yeah, it got to be where, like, the moment there was any available business that popped up that anybody heard of, just send an email real quick. And then you could be like, already emailed them. Hey, I left them a voicemail. Yep. Anything, mine. And now you can take your sweet time and no one else can touch it. And yeah, it's helpful to some and frustrating to others.
But if I were in policy controls and I didn't want that stuff to happen, so we use this Trump accounts that Michael Dell gives a couple $1 billion to fund $1,000 in people's accounts. Cool. All right. Sounds good. Sounds like a cool plan. Every one of those things have to have an answer for it. My first question, if I were in any of those hearings, is how are you going to regulate self-interest out of this program? And they would say, what do you mean self-interest? What do you mean? I have no conflict of interest. Like, legally, I have no conflict of interest. But then nobody who sets policy ever weighs the self-interest that will 100% certainly happen. Okay. Mm-hmm. So somebody's going to come along. They're not really involved, but they have the ability to put their interests ahead of something and then compromise a good meaning, well-meaning program, right, for their own interests. So if you don't defend against it when you do it, if you don't say we're going to segment out the soda cans, there's a chance that somebody's going to see soda, know that there's a rule to claim soda, you put your lips on it, and nobody's going to push against it. When somebody gets self-interested, they do the wrong thing that's still in the gray area of the rules. How do you defend against that? If everybody's like, oh, we do that? Huh? Then we'll just hit that bridge when we come across it, right?
Yeah.
But that's how dumb we are when we then make it even more complicated, which makes it more unsolvable in the future. That's why I'm a cynic that we are doomed, and I'm railing against cynics. I get that. That's irony.
Jeff says, people got the hand-me-down attitude from the steel mill issues. So do you think banning social media to younger people is going to be beneficial?
No.
Really? I don't know. I don't hate the idea.
Beneficial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you're talking to so have you removed the desire to have social content?
No.
Are kids generally smarter than their parents?
With certain things.
So if I was like, hey, no more Instagram, my kid would listen to me because I would justify it, and I would take whatever desire he had with it. I need to communicate with my friends, or blah, and we'd field out all the things so I'd feed the desire. I wouldn't try to quell it, because you haven't changed someone's mind if all you did was ban something they like doing.
Yeah.
You haven't made a substitution. So now in Australia, I'm going to download a VPN. The VPN is going to say that I live in the United States. I'm going to download the app, and I'm going to pretend like I'm in the United States. I didn't do anything. I just shifted people into territories where they outmaneuvered their parents.
That was my first question when they're banning it. I was like, how are they going to monitor that?
You're not. That's why it's feels good, but it doesn't do what
I mean,
you
it
think it
asks
is.
you your birth date, you can lie.
That's it.
Just like ban guns, criminals can get them.
Mm-hmm.
You're banking on everyone's like, oh, there's a rule. Nuts. I have to follow this rule, or I could not.
And
I
when
could
there is a
just do
demand, it'll always be fed, right? So let's just say like Discord is the darker side of messaging. Like the good kids are all on like Snapchat and Instagram. The bad kids are all on Discord and the other messaging systems. So there's a level of expertise and experience that leads kids, the smarter ones, know how to do an end around on their parents better. So they go to the darker parts of the web in order to do the same thing. So you didn't quell it. You just pushed it in a darker territory where there's even more danger than the ones that are. Thank you, sir. And so, yeah, it won't do any of the like good intent, dumb people managing those good intent things.
So how do you feel about topics like abortion, where people say if you outlaw abortion, all you're going to do is make people do it under the radar in a less safe environment? Wouldn't that sort of be similar?
Mathematically, okay, so if the question is, do you want to have more death or less death, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we have 1 million abortions per year, and then we have 2,000 back alley coat hanger ones, is 2,000 less than 1 million? It is less. So the aggregate, you would get a net benefit from banning abortion, even though you'd have to stomach people getting abortions anyway and dying, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's a lesser number, then it is an improvement on the math.
But you don't think the ban on social media will have a lesser number of kids having issues? Or do you think it's not?
Well, what do you mean issues? Like, give me more. Because we're talking with abortion, we're talking about the first one, life.
Yeah.
Right. The first promise of the liberty and the pursuit. Life.
Yeah.
Right. If there's a loss of life, there's a whole delusion that this is a life and everybody knows it. When you kill it, it's no longer life. So we have to make it so that it's not a life. And then all we're considering is the parent rather than the life that's inside them. Mm-hmm. And that's where we've skewed that one. So it's not even a fair argument because no one will agree that that's life.
Well, let's look at why they're doing it. Why are they doing this? The ban of social media with 16-year-olds.
Okay, so I think, and I can't answer it, with certainty. With certainty. Yeah. But there was a big thing on Discord with a bunch of older males that were pretending to be children, and they were doing a bunch of exploitative things with kids. And when that made the news, I'm assuming it's a response to it's dangerous territory. The content is too violent. They're seeing sexual things on social media and just a bad influence on kids. It's making it worse, and there's very little good that's going into it. That would be my guess.
What exactly is Discord? I've heard of it. I don't really know what it is. Is it like
it's sort of like messaging, like individuals can message one another, and they can also participate in communities with other people. So you can find a Discord on actors and talk to actors about things that are actors, or it's for video games.
Is it like a chat room in a way?
Loosely.
It's sort of like a social media platform.
It's more messaging and community based. So gamers used it where they play their favorite game and then they create a server on Discord. They own, like Discord hosts it, but they own the server, and other people can find that server and sort of like chat in that community like a message board would, but you can also chat with individual people that are part of that community. But the gamers are also your developers, that the minute that you make a product that is popular, banned, they'll just go make another one, and they'll make it better so that you can't control what it is they do. That was the advent of Bitcoin, came from developers who were like, F the financial systems, and made something that couldn't be regulated.
So they could say, no Facebook, no Instagram, no TikTok. Okay, well, we'll go on Discord. Well, no Discord. Okay, then we'll go on here.
Yep, and they'll keep developing more products that will lead them deeper and deeper into the darker places of the internet, where now they can not only outmaneuver you, but they can do it completely covertly.
So you're kind of creating those back alley.
Yeah, because the original thing
darker
was,
things.
how do you diminish the demand for what kids are chasing versus taking away the firearm when if violent people will find other ways of doing harm to other people?
How do you take away the semi-dangerous adult playground and not shove them to a back alley that's even more dangerous?
Exactly.
Ooh,
Yes,
that's a good point.
If you want to think that all of there's not going to be a social problem there's never going to be an easy to solve one. That's why I say you're going to mitigate against very small slices of what it is, hoping to make it better. But the true thing is, the thing that you can't do, but you should do, is change the desires and demands of the heart of the person that's doing it. Okay? Is alcoholism and drug use a problem? Right? You have two choices. Make the demand lower by winning people over, that shouldn't be a pursuit, getting to them before they've made that choice, or make illegal drug, because they made drugs illegal, and we've totally put a stop to that whole drug thing, right?
Yeah.
Totally successful.
It's not a thing anymore.
No, people just won't like, oh, I need heroin, but oh man, it's illegal.
Darn,
I'm not going to then go to do more illegal stuff and go to a darker area of my life just to get the thing that I want. You diminish the demand. At the same time, you also have to suppress and make it harder to get that.
So it's like, are you focusing on taking away the gun, or are you focusing on not making it so easy for someone to take a life?
Yeah.
Mentally.
Study it as a science, find out what contributes to it, make suggestions and references to people who do regulations to make it a little better every year. And maybe over 10 years, you make it 10% better. And that is a win. Versus if you do nothing, it becomes 50% worse year after year until it's intolerable to the rest of us.
Yeah, because I think it's almost like that like sort of strong arm people want to do because it's the only thing we could do right now.
Exactly.
Like, let's go ahead and spend the next several decades trying to create a culture that isn't a bunch of little sociopaths.
Mm-hmm.
Or
but we are doing that
right now. Take this gun.
If a social scientist came down here and say, hold on, guys, I'm measuring this, and our sample group of 1,000 kids, there are 50 more sociopaths in there than there were last time. We're doing that already. And if we do nothing, it's going to probably stay the same. If we make it worse, then that's going to get worse. And there are direct correlations between us doing X, Y, Z and creating more sociopaths. So in 10 years, there will be 5 million sociopaths who then will take and participate in other social problems that we have in other directions. And we don't want that. So maybe you go to the origin, like the patient zero, right?
Yeah.
And get to them before they become the sociopath that does violence to other people and is in dark trenches of the internet getting ideas from other sociopaths. And now you have more sociopaths and you have people that are, normal. But there's a tipping point when there are too many of them to solve the problem. And I feel like we're there.
Yeah. And like you said, they're just going to create new ways and maybe darker, worse ways to do the same thing.
That's right.
Oh, Jerry says, unfortunately, the world of electronics did start as a positive thing for all, but unfortunately, it has caused a very easy pathway for illegal activity. For instance, bullying, extortion, etc. It has turned reality of having your identity out there when using computers to know being very untraceable, and you can create a totally fake identity. Yeah, I feel like a lot of things start out as a really great innovation and something that can really help people. And then we ultimately...
But that's that human nature thing.
Yeah.
Every single time.
This is why we can't have nice things.
That is, I will allow that cliche today because it is true. So email, when it came along, email was great. You can send a message to another person
instantly.
And then a bunch of people are like, oh, free way of messaging people. I'm going to send you millions of them. And you're like, oh, well, this thing's unusable now that we got millions of them.
Now I can send you viruses.
And then I got to create a company then that filters out messages from other people. And then I got to deny certain countries because all they do is send bad spam. And then I got to create whitelists and blacklists and all of this cost and consequence. Yeah. We're like, why did I take on this email thing and didn't see that it can be easily exploited because it was absolutely free and available to everyone? I could have told you free, available to everyone is a good thing. Yeah. And then there's an engineer's like, guys, not a good idea. Make it a postage stamp. Make it cost something so people don't take advantage of it, exploit it, and ruin it.
I mean, look, like, hey, we need to get around. We're going to make cars. We're going to make vehicles. People are going to be able to drive places. It's going to take a lot shorter time to get to where you need to go. And then, hey, you don't need to be a fully grown adult to operate one of these. You could be a 16-year-old kid because they got to go places too. And then, hey, we have innovation in telephones, and we've got mobile phones, and you can talk to somebody while you're on the go. Let's put that in the vehicle, and now you can drive, you can get somewhere, you can have the phone with you, you're in reach. And hey, let's make it now so that you can watch screens while you're on it. And if you don't know where you're going, you got a screen in your car, so now you have a phone, you have a screen. Let's make it so you can go faster. Now you can go faster on the roads, and you can do all these things, and now we kill each other because we're distracted driving in a death trap.
No, we made laws. You're not allowed to do those things, so they're not happening
Yeah.
anymore. We make it
You don't
illegal.
have to touch your phone though while
Make
driving.
it illegal and have an officer that, on a street that has 20,000 cars pass by, give 2 tickets away, and you've managed a percent of the people who are there. But that's going to totally take everybody and question, doing those things anymore. So stupid. We're so dumb.
That's the best way to describe it. This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
We will destroy it.
What else? I ranted. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest, because I know none of you listening feel any better about the doom that's in front of us. But
that's the theme of our show.
I think the revelation of Joe having an island and being really discriminatory about who I invite to this island.
Yeah.
Only smart people who will not have no self-interest. So I'm going only Christians, only people who follow biblical teachings, because I know they're all right. I still be discerning when it comes to them, but at least I give them a high probability of following the rules and guidelines that help each other out. And it'll be a utopia. And that will not go wrong.
So tomorrow,
yes,
Elon Musk comes up to you and was like, Joe, I
Mars,
want you to be with Mars.
Dude, I'm already on my way. I am packed.
You're like, there's my bag. When do we leave?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some downside to that, but the upside is I don't have to stick around for this shit show that's going to happen in the next 10 years. Fortunately, AI will take over. They'll enslave all of us. And even though I'll be enslaved too, it'll at least enslave the dangerous people. And they're more
Or you could be
corralled.
like M. Night Shyamalan, start your own village. Nobody can go past the forest. You're like, I get it. I get why somebody would do that now.
Yeah.
I get it. If you could go back to the 90s, would you?
And not what? No, 90s were not great.
Well, I say 90s, but any era where the things that have evolved into something bad has not even begun yet.
I would go to 1890. But yes, the 90s, I would be there. I had a great trip yesterday. I went over to Akron, and we just live in this area where the history is so thick. You can't go 10 miles without seeing a place where important things happened in our building of our culture and civilization. Yeah. And so I went to the Goodyear factory. They built tires for Ford and the auto manufacturers, and huge presence here in Akron. And so I went to a couple of the sites, huge mansion over in I think it's North Akron. It's right off Route 8. But anyway, reading all the plaques of what happened here, I'm like, man, I really wish I was alive in this time when this was happening. I wouldn't have technology and no Wi-Fi and whatever, but man, I would have thrived in this era.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think you would have done professionally?
Oh, I'd be an industrialist. I absolutely would. I would have been behind either steel industry, rubber, car. I mean, we're surrounded. You take your pick of things that interest you the most, and yeah, I would have done it really well.
Interesting. You know what I did over the weekend? My life is not as cool as yours.
Yeah.
I introduced my daughter to The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
The movie?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a good idea for an 11-year-old. My 10-year-old, no, he doesn't need to see that. My 11-year-old, she could handle it. Do you know that movie? You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. With your interest in history and the past and things of that nature, this is going to go way off into left field.
Oh, I'm about to go there too. So you go.
Okay.
Go first.
I was going to say, how do you feel about the whole? I'm trying to not make this sound crazy and delusional, but
do it. Crazier the better.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I believe in different dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With ghosts?
I don't think a ghost is the same thing that you think a ghost is.
What do you think a ghost is?
I think you get information from different dimensions, and we're interpreting as energy spirits from different dimensions, and whether or not they're sentient, I don't know. Do they have consciousness? I have no idea.
So a good friend of mine who is an atheist, we watched this reel about, I can't think of his name. You would know him to see him. He does a lot of political stuff. I got to find out his name. He was telling this story about how he was an atheist and he prayed one time. He hadn't talked to his mother in forever. And he asked God to speak to his mother. And literally, like, within minutes, he got a blocked phone call number and answered it. And it was his mother. And this friend of mine said, yeah, I don't know if that was God, but I do believe in telepathy. Do you believe in that?
I do.
How do you think that works?
Back to my whole dimension things. Like, you get to traverse. You get to traverse things that are outside of this plane of existence. And I think you move throughout those different dimensions where there's different information, there's different happenings. And through things like manifesting and tuning your antenna, you can connect with things that if you don't practice that, you can't connect with.
So do you think a little Haley Joel Osment-like person that seeing dead people everywhere could be something that you're actually seeing?
Yeah, I don't think the experience would be the same as Haley Joel Osment hit. It's not persons that are wandering in, because that's our interpretation of it.
Yeah,
I think you'd have a little bit, it would, because it's looking through the prism of a different dimension, you're not going to have full resolution of that being or that energy or whatever that thing is.
You think it's more of like a more of like a see-through, what's the word? Like a hologram almost.
A hologram image of something that lurks in a different dimension that you can perceive. Yes.
Have you ever done that?
Oh, all the time.
Shut up!
All the time.
No, you haven't. You've perceived
information
from a different dimension.
Yes, all the time.
You careful. Do too. People with straight jackets are coming for you.
You do too. You just don't know how to perceive it, and you can't make any sense of it. It's kind of cool. It's a spectacle.
Kind of like, have you ever thought about someone that you hadn't seen or talked to in God knows how long, and then you see them or you run into them or they call and you're like, I can't believe I was just thinking about you. And it's not someone you would have even interacted with in like months, years, whatever. Do you think that's a form of like receiving information from some sort of multiverse or whatever, and it was just, you knew it was coming? Because
see, it's tough to have this conversation because a lot of it is looking for the perspective of time and space, and on the quantum level, time and space don't have to adhere to those planes. So if I said all an infinite amount of views were packaged with zero time and space would give you just a Kelin energy, right? If I would take all of your life and smush it down into just the smallest thing that I possibly could, your birth to your death, all happening in no time, no space. What would that look like, right? And so that's when you start looking through a quantum perspective where time and space are not obstacles, right? There's more. If you have to wait for something to happen, if it's already happened, and you don't have to travel through time to be able to get there, you don't have to translate it back to time when you have your perceptions and your experience. So it's a different conversation. And I want to get into quantum today.
I'd heard recently, what was it? Time, space, and is it matter?
Doesn't matter. Sorry.
They can't, you can't have one without the others. They cannot exist on their own. You have some matter, you have something, there's got to be somewhere you put it. There's got to be space. And if you have it, then there's time. Have you ever heard of this?
Okay. Where are you going with that though?
Where was I going with this? You had said,
the quantum level.
You had said, the existence of time and space, or it not existing or something like that. But really, time, space, matter are always existing.
Through our perceptions, those exist. Like, let's just say in the real world, there's no such thing as time. The Big Bang and right now happened at exactly the same time because there is no time. It's hard to look at things when you take one thing that you depend on. It's almost like a blind person. If you take light out of it, let's just say light doesn't exist anymore. No photons, no such thing as seeing things, right? And you start taking things in a photon world and try to describe to me why things like red is a limitation. There's no red lights in a non-photon world. It doesn't even exist, so it's not a contemplation. It's only you'd have to translate it down to the world where red exists, and it means stop, and then you've associated those two things together. In a non-photon world, that's not even a thing.
Like tree falls in a woods, no one's around,
Yeah.
doesn't make a sound.
Right.
How can sound exist if there is nothing to receive the sound? Yet there are still vibrations, which would cause sound
That
waves.
would be sound if there were ears to hear it. So that is the quantum argument. Right.
So do you think we had talked earlier about things like teachings in the Bible and things like that. In the Bible, there's a lot that can be confusing, especially if you're not a historian or someone who studies it. But you see a lot of people in the Bible that are like 400 something years old.
Right.
How do you explain that? Is it just the translation of their calendar years or whatnot? Is it people living actually longer? Is it time is different and maybe time and space was different? I don't know. How do you explain that?
You see Interstellar?
No.
Why all of my favorite everything?
I'm watching The Sixth Sense.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
watching crazy stuff.
Time dilation, or the changes in perspectives of time, means that people can experience time differently depending on where they're at, environment. So if you go
kind of like time flies when you're having fun. Something felt really fast or something could feel really slow.
Oh, so the different angles, but yes, let me continue.
Okay.
So if you go really fast through space,
Yeah.
right, and you near the speed of light, you're nearing the speed of light. Is time for you and me going to be different?
Yeah.
Okay. If you get really close to a black hole, okay, is time moving slow or fast? Right. So if there isn't a time that is static, exists for all people, there can be no changes to it. It's not elastic, doesn't grow, it doesn't shrink. Right. So if you're on a plane and I'm on the ground and I set my watch, you set your watch, the plane goes really high and really fast and it comes down on the ground and my watch is now different than your watch. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When we're comparing two things, we know if we measured it that we experience time differently. You're missing 5 seconds because you were going really fast and mine says a different time. Now, when you experienced it, did you not just experience the same amount of time, just measured differently?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the measurement.
Yeah,
that's
you're not
different.
like you didn't black out for 5 seconds and it was missing. You experienced the same 5, but in proportion and relative to one another, right? Then the measurement of time would be different. So when it comes to like the expansion of the universe and when the universe was smaller versus stretched out and you create more distance and the density of mass is separated, will time be experienced differently? Well, you need two people on both sides of the equation, right, to be able to compare what true time is. So how, and so there's a couple of things that I would go. So if I was evaluating this scientifically, were you and I, you being in biblical times and me, were we using the same devices to measure time? How did you arrive at 500 years and I arrived at 60 years? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you use a watch? Did you call up time and temperature?
Was there a sundial?
Where was the sun move?
Yeah.
So that's number one, is the inconsistencies in the measuring devices. So maybe 560 were equal because I was looking at a certain things and I wasn't maybe not tracking it the same way that you are.
Yeah.
That's number one. What if the time was extended at a certain point through that expansion of the universe and time was actually ticking by slower? And even though I was measuring the sun, how do I know the sun wasn't going faster around the earth than it is right now in that expansion? So those are two things where the unit of measurement making consistent between two time periods that are separated by a long distance, and whether or not if those distances are really different.
Yeah. See, in this, I feel like I'm jumping all over the
you're
page
good.
here, but
we said we were going to Crazy Town. So
yes,
we're
I
there.
love going to Crazy Town. And the reason this even was in my head is I was just talking to my son this morning. We were talking about things in the Bible and what's hard to believe and what maybe do we think didn't actually happen. And we were talking about, there's a lot of stories that sound very much like a fairy tale. Like there's no way that could actually happen. And my point was, well, if you look at people living to be hundreds of years old, are there lots of different variables there that could make that actually make sense? So just as that, is there something that could have been present in our world then that just isn't anymore?
Well,
like, was that actually possible?
Exactly. And everything's so different. There's very few things that are the same. So if you took two people, you took someone from the 1700s and you sat them down.
Mhm.
And if I ask the question, how far away is California? They're going to say a month and a half away. And I'm going to say California is 4 hours away.
Yeah.
Both of us are right. It's just
Yeah.
the unit that we're using to measure how far it was when you're talking about time. There are experiences that happened along the way, right? That mine was almost in an instant and yours took a couple months to be able to get there. I was traveling in an airplane. You were traveling in a covered wagon, two different units of an experience that you had versus what I would have. And so like, do you think in a lifetime, do you think today a person experiences more in 30 days than someone in the 1700s experienced in their entire lifetime?
Yeah.
So that's the when you shift relativity between the experience of other people and to take great distances and compare those two things, there's inconsistencies between what you're comparing to because nothing is the same.
Yeah. And I mean, there are certain things like that you could say through scientific reasoning is plausible. But then when you take the things that are really like, okay, let's think.
Give me a most outlandish one and we'll try to
let's take like Jesus walked on water.
Okay.
Could that have been plausible back then and not now?
I want to read the original account for what that was.
Yeah.
So if you tried to make the argument that some dude had some technology allowed him skate across the top of the water, I don't know what the relevance or the reason would be.
Yeah.
I would say that miracles were the currency of the day. And if someone did something, they stood out from everyone else. And so if you were like Joe walked on water, then the followers would look at me as someone who can do supernatural things. And I was making the argument that I can do supernatural thing. And that's one of them. I could see that there was some marketing at play there. But I don't know. I'd like to see how it was pitched.
That's what I'm wondering. Like all these things like parting of the seas where water literally separated like two walls and you walked through and it went down. Like just a story or somehow plausible, like
today, no, not possible.
Right.
You have to take in the things that were at the time and see what existed there. And the accounts that we have are paper thin, and we don't have a lot to go on to see what life was like and what technologies were available.
Yeah.
Like if someone was carrying the Ark of the Covenant, Ark of the Covenant was something that had supernatural powers, and it contained something that allowed water to be pushed back by, and a river was parted because of it. Then
somebody touched it and instantly evaporated.
Could I do it today through science and make that thing happen? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I don't have an Ark of Covenant. I don't have special shoes that allow me to walk on water. I don't know how it was done.
And that's the thing is fairy tales, lies, or plausible because of a time that things were different.
I would just ask, why are we trying to figure that out? Because we're not trying to replicate it. Are we trying to poke holes in it and make it so that it's outlandish? I mean,
I think some people.
At the end of the day, even if you knew that it was marketing language, let's just say it was conversation. So I'm Paul, you're somebody else in that group, right?
Mhm.
They're like, this guy, he can heal people. He can do all these great things. And you're like, I don't believe he's only a human being. He can't do those things. Well, next you're going to tell me he can walk on water. And the stenographer's like, Jesus can walk on water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now through history, it was something that got translated down to the guy had things that he could do that nobody else could do. And a sarcastic comment was made in front of the stenographer, who then took it down as walking on water, which was then a metaphor of a person who could do outlandish things. I don't know that it didn't go down that way, but it's plausible that it was, dramatic language. I don't know. I can't.
Is it in it? I mean, don't they say, what's the cliche or what people always say? We only use like a certain % of our brains.
I hate that. That's one of the worst.
I know you hate that. Would you say there are parts of our brains that we don't consciously use?
When you say parts, what do you mean? You mean neurons? I have neurons that you don't because I developed different ones.
Is there anything in our brain that we don't consciously use? Like if they point to the area of the brain that we
regulates
feel heartbeat,
Okay.
that you feel anxiety. You can point out to the part of the brain that does smell. You can point to the part of the brain that does this, that. All of these things, we know what we're doing. I know I'm smelling. I know how I'm feeling. I know I'm doing this. Is there matter in our brains that we don't know consciously what it's doing?
Well, we program those think of a mall. You got a mall, and they could put the little map there, and they say like zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4.
Yeah.
Those are physical parts where there's can be stuff in there.
Yeah.
But do all of us have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4? Yes, we all have the ability. We have storefronts.
Right.
And then we put stuff in those storefronts. So are there people that have different things in those storefronts? So if somebody have a kiosk and somebody has a big department store, yes, it's what they develop in those things. Are there parts of the brain that are just really not used? Like there are things that I have never done. Let's just say I've never swung a baseball bat, and you have swung a baseball bat. Well, the kiosk, right, is something, if you looked at my baseball swinging skill, right, when you look at it and saying, that's an underutilized neuron, that should be nice and developed with tons of branches and close neurons together, that's an undeveloped one. But this one over here, he does all the time, and that one is fully developed. So are there bigger segments of the brain that are committed to certain actions or capabilities, smell, taste, whatever, all those things, regulating heartbeat? Yeah, they're more developed than others. And the ones that we're all born with that keep us alive, those more basic ones, those are pretty much all the same. They don't need to be developed as much as the other one. So when you say, I don't use 10%, you say you have openings in your brain. I'm going to argue with that and saying, if you're not doing this one thing, then you're probably overdeveloping in this different area. So let's just say you have a great, you like anxiety and you like stressing out about things. Well, you have an overdeveloped sense over here. It's a department store. It's filling the space. The neurons in your brain are happening. They're just in a different zone, in a different department, in a different storefront. So
could there have been a time that the norm was to develop parts of the brain that people nowadays
100%.
See no use in and don't develop?
It's 100%. Okay, so if you get up in the morning and you check your phone for the time, right? Compare the parts of your brain that have forced you into that habit. Compare that to someone in the 1700s. What are they doing with that capacity, that ability of their neurons, right? They're doing a different thing, right? When they wake up, they're doing a different thing, like stoking the fire or whatever. So if you compare those two brains, the brains are going to be differently from every measurement because you're doing different things with it.
I don't know. It's interesting. Like I always think about things like this when I hear, I've found this new interest in listening to people debate like Christians versus atheists, proof of God versus what's not proof of God. Everything is science, things of that nature. And then again, I always run into these things where like the Bible is a good example that someone would say, this didn't happen. That's impossible. This didn't happen. That's impossible. And then I'm like, or is it back to how it's measured? It's just different. What we understand happened versus what actually happened. Are there things that were possible thousands of years ago that we don't recreate anymore? Doesn't mean not possible. We lost the utility in it. We lost the value in it. It's not done anymore. So it seems impossible when maybe it didn't used to be.
So, all right, let me, the Bible people are going to hate me for this, but I don't care. So as a kid, I was talking to a pastor and I asked them, why isn't the Bible continually being written now? Right? Is it over? Is it done? Like if we decided to put certain books in there, like who decided what goes in there and who decides that there's more books to be added? It could be the book of Joe, right? I can write something up and get it included in the New Testament. Maybe I'll go Old Testament. I'm kind of a dick. So I'll go to the Old Testament and I'll give some new revelations about, from my perspective.
Yeah.
And deer in the headlights about why it wouldn't be written now. What's so unique about the time period that all that was in religious wisdom is already complete and it's done. And every pastor will tell you it's perfection. There's no mistakes. It's the way that it should be. Right. And I reject that portion of it. So what is the Bible? How was it put together? How what you read today, how did it even come to be?
Short answer, I don't know.
Okay.
I have seen bits and pieces of different things that were found, writings that were found.
Okay. What was it? The Dead Sea Scrolls, right?
There's also, I don't know what
Alexandria.
it's called, but there's like it's like this big there's like a small section of, I don't even remember what it was, that's been found.
Okay, so if you were to do the whole Dead Sea Scrolls, and there are tons of writings, do you think that all those writings made their way to the Bible?
No.
Do you think there was editorial control about what makes it? Have you ever read any of the non-biblical writings that?
I've heard of them.
Okay.
I guess I've never really read or studied them yet. I've heard that I have heard there are fraudulent writings, or writings that somebody said, oh, hey, this was from back then too, but really they wrote it and they were a scam. So yeah, I've heard there's others. I don't really know how it's determined or found. Or
well, there's thousands of other writings, right? And two of which, like the Book of Enoch, that's a good one to look into, because that goes along with what you were talking about, the giants and the origin of the flood and the origin of the watchers and angels and the fall of the angels to create demons and the bastardization of children. And it's a good book, but it's very dark, right?
Yeah.
And so if I'm the editor for the Bible, and there's a purpose of the Bible is to take wisdoms to control and, force virtues and whatever. I remember back in those times, we were going up against evils, and the way you fought against evils were taking information. Information was the warfare at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't include Enoch, because it told the story and gave you a depiction from Enoch's perspective, but it didn't really help your plight against conquering demons just that way.
Yeah.
Right? And Jubilee, I think, was the other one. I think that's what it was. And the thing where the atheists surrounded, it's not a coincidence that the website that does that is called Jubilee. So that's another book that would
the surrounded the debate thing.
Yes.
Oh,
look into Jubilee as well.
Okay.
But anyway, there are thousands of them. So you wonder, like, what made this way. The Catholic Church, the church decided what books to put together that did the best good in what they were trying to do, would bring people together and teach followers and whatever. So that's where I disagree with pastors who say that it's complete and whatever. It was just a handbook, and they took the best writings from Alexandria, from the Dead Sea Scrolls, that was to that end, right? So there are stories that are probably equally as well written and came from perspectives of people who were there, that didn't really go along with the theme of what the Bible was intended to do, just never made its way. They're equally good to read, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it carries less weight. When you're reading those books, you're both thinking that's written in the same style, you have the same kind of stories, but at the same time, we're like, this one didn't make the cut, and I want to know why this one didn't make the cut and the other ones did. It adds a new flavor of perspective.
Yeah, and there's a guy, have you ever heard of Wes Huff?
No.
He's a historian, and a Christian, I guess, historian, and he talks a lot on these different, like, podcasts and things that I listen to, and he knows a lot about the teachings and the writings and things that were fake, and that's why they're not actually in there and stuff like that. I don't actually know, but it is interesting to think about. And I wonder, do you believe that you could, if you believe in God, do you have to believe that everything in the Bible is factual?
No, I don't. Personally. And
Yeah.
if I'm a sinner because of it, I'm cool with that sin, because I'm doing it in the spirit of faith. I think one of the big, let's go conspiracy, Bill. Here.
Conspiracy.
This is big.
Bill.
We only spent a couple minutes on it, but I want to hit this one because I did some digging this weekend on it. We're gonna do New World Order. Okay, you know anything about it?
I always think of wrestling.
New World Order, Illuminati, the connection between the control. Okay, you got to think of it this way. Do you think that after we just suffered World War I, World War II, warring countries, devastation, tons of death, that all of the countries involved really didn't want to do war anymore? And the reason they were doing war is because you had these smaller groups that disagreed. Everything from the way that they did their finances to how they controlled people to philosophical and, government structures of government.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all decided, like, this is getting kind of stupid. We're just going to destroy ourselves. Let's just unite all of us. Good intentions. Unite all of us. We'll have one power. We can do more.
Stop killing
with
each
good.
other.
Yeah, we won't have disagreements based on borders. Those all disappear. So then, good theory, right?
Yeah.
But then you could see them all getting in the room and saying, all of us are really different. And, what religion would you have? What designation of government philosophy. And you can see there's more disagreements than agreements because everybody would think they're the superior philosophy and they would want to win. And everybody else would be like, I don't want to be part of a government that, that doesn't. And so one of the ideas of New World Order is that it cannot be subjected on to people, right? No one will go along with it because they'll be unwilling to make a compromise on what they believe to go into a uniform government. It would have to be demanded by. So then the theys out there, the conspirators out there, they thought, well, what would make everybody demand that we just unite? It's got to come from them. It can't come from us. They'll never accept it. So there was a 4-plot plan to do everything that we're doing right now, right? So the demand of the people, we get so bad under the governance the way that it is, people would demand that we need to do this and it would be a good idea and they would accept it because of that. And we'll talk. I can't get into all of the 4 things. We'll reserve that for Wednesday's show. But faith is part of that. All right. So faith is what binds us to our belief in, our national identity, our religion's faith, our family, our community. And that is what will stop us from signing on to a unified, governor of the world. So you got to break your faith in your community. You got to break your faith in religion. You got to break your faith in national identity and so on and so forth. Okay. And how I would do that is I would make sure that I knew what made you loyal to those 4 groups. And I would do my best to give you doubt. And at the same time, where I have to destroy your faiths in those things, I would have to elect a new faith, a neutral faith, that then you could move your old faith over to. And again, that's what we're doing here as well. But anyway, we'll reserve New World Order for Wednesday's show. But it goes along with all of the Illuminati and aliens actually are part of this. Okay. I believe.
Okay.
Project Blue Book and all of the really fun conspiracy theories. I'm going to weave it into something that
I don't even know what Project Blue Book is. Should I Google it before Wednesday?
Yeah, get some exposure to Project Blue Book.
Everybody should. Jerry's like, I think we need to get back to Youngstown talk. Listen, Jerry, we're not calming down. You calm up.
She started it. I
calm up to our crazy
admit
level.
That I was going to go to Crazy Town, but she started Crazy.
Homework, Jerry. Project Blue Book, and we'll discuss.
Is that good? We done for today?
I like Crazy Town. It's interesting.
But, Jerry, we gave something for everyone today. We talked about national politics. We talked about local politics. We talked about crazy conspiracy theories, biblical teachings, history, the whole thing.
Yeah, why do you want to hear more about how politics are ruining everyone and doom and gloom and we're all screwed and we can't have nice things? Or we talk about
craziness. Woo, we did go off the rails there. All right. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll catch you tomorrow.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel